Back with the Fox News alert for you. The State Department has released another batch of Hillary Clinton's emails, and it's not looking good for her record at all. At least 125 of those emails had classified information blacked out.
Joining us right now to react to this news that's just come out in the last few hours is former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, a former State Department official and a Fox News channel contributor. They're co-authors of this great new book, Exceptional, The World Needs a Superpower. Here it is. I'll hold it up. Why the world needs a powerful America. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Nice to be here.
All right, first off, your reaction to this overall drip of these emails being released and the use of a private server.
Well, I think it's a very serious matter. You know, anytime you're dealing with classified information, there are certain rules and procedures and statutes, in effect, about how you have to treat classified information. And everybody who has clearances is briefed into those programs when they're given their clearances. I'm surprised, for example, that you'd have somebody who was Secretary of State who apparently didn't follow those rules or didn't know them.
Well, so that I keep asking myself, you know, boil it down, because the details can have people just in the weeds about it, because it's taking so long to get all these emails out, and what we're seeing obviously points to the fact that our national security was put in a risky position. But what do you believe that Hillary Clinton, who wants to be the president of the United States, was too dumb to realize what she was doing and made it a dangerous situation, or was she being devious? And it's now a dangerous situation. Which of those is it?
Obviously, I don't know. I haven't talked to her. I just know, for example, when you go into the Situation Room in the West Wing basement for a National Security Council meeting, there's a basket outside. All the electronic gear goes into that basket, pagers, cell phones, and everything else, because nobody wants to have an electronic device in the meeting that could conceivably be used to tap into whatever proceedings going on there. I mean, there's a lot of sensitivity. It's around you all the time. And for her to have in her home, the server, you know, for her email setup, it's beyond comprehension. I don't understand what they thought they were doing.
Liz, you worked at the State Department. Is there something particular in that department, a loophole or something she could have exploited to sort of have an excuse for this, or should you just do an end around?
You know, nothing that I can imagine. And I think the question is, you're sort of saying to yourself, was she naive enough, incompetent enough to think that she could function this way, or does she really believe the rules don't apply to her? And no matter how you answer that question, it raises real concerns about her fitness to be our president.
You add that to ignoring the guidance about not talking to Sidney Blumenthal, and it seems like
the standing guidance, right?
Yeah, it seems like above the law, above the rules.
And apparently deleting the emails from the server while they were under subpoena.
Mr. Vice President, something else comes to mind, too. President Obama didn't want her to do this. He said he had a whole thing. You shouldn't be using your private server, and she did it anyway. And what is that like, to have somebody in the higher, like the President of the United States, Vice President of the United States, and have somebody just blatantly disobey you?
Well, he obviously had ways to correct it. I assume he didn't know about it, that this was a practice that she did on her own. But when you're dealing with that kind of really sensitive information, it comes across your desk every day. You're in meetings, you're having conversations, you're having meetings that involve an awful lot of classified information at that level, especially at Secretary of State.
Mr. Vice President, you know, we look at the poll numbers, and they seem to reflect the fact that this is not sitting well with the American people. Hillary Clinton's dropped about 20 points since May. When you look at her favorability and trust numbers, they're low. It is seemingly opening up the door for Vice President Joe Biden to step in for a potential run. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a great idea. I like Joe. He's a good man. He's a Democrat. We don't agree on very much, but I think he would add a lot to the race. And besides, they're kind of short on candidates on their side.
Right.
They need some more.
All right, let's talk about this book. And it is phenomenal. Once you start reading, you can't put it down. It gives you the reason why we are exceptional. It's not an opinion. It's necessary. The world needs America. Liz, why?
Well, because the United States, unlike any other nation, unlike any community of nations, any international body, has to be out there protecting and defending peace and freedom. And what we really wanted to do was go back to World War II. And we opened in 1940 with Franklin Roosevelt mobilizing the nation to be the arsenal of democracy and explaining that for 75 years, Republican and Democratic presidents alike, for the most part, have understood America has a unique role to play in terms of leading in the world, and that maintaining our power is crucial to our security.
Mr. Vice President, on top of that, you talk about George Marshall. He saw what was happening. Stalin wanted Europe to wither.
Right.
And he decides in one speech there's going to be a Marshall Plan, and we're going to rebuild it for America's sake and for the world's sake. Talk about that decision.
Well, I'm a huge fan of General Marshall. When I became Secretary of Defense, I had the portrait taken down that was behind my desk in my office, and I hung up the picture of George Marshall because he's a man of enormous impact, a great military leader. Subsequently, he was Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State before the end of his career. But he really shaped our military response, created the military that we used in World War II, built, 100 divisions, and just had a phenomenal impact working together, obviously, with President Roosevelt.
No one else was going to do it. America was the only one to do it and save Western civilization.
We were the only ones who could. And remember, by the time, when Germany invaded Poland in 1939, September is when Marshall became Chief of Staff, in effect. And he did just a phenomenal job throughout the war in terms of military strategy, overseeing the whole operation, mobilizing the economy, and he was key.
Liz, some people, to that engagement in the world, some people say it's not a popular stance these days. Maybe the American people don't want America engaged in the world. What do you say to the appetite of people for American exceptionalism on the globe?
Well, I'd say, first of all, you need to think about a world in which our adversaries decide what the world order looks like. Imagine, and this is a world that's not hard to imagine because we're seeing it in the Middle East today, for example, where America retreats and you have groups like ISIS, you have nations like Iran, Russia, China, who clearly have a very different concept of what the world should look like and how important freedom is. And so I think we don't have a choice, and we need to understand we are the exceptional nation.
Absolutely.
Ms. Cheney, thank you for your
Vice
time.
President.
Mr. Vice President,
Thank you.
thank you so much. The book
Congratulations on the book.
is
All right.
Thank you.
exceptional.
See ya.
Exceptional.
Thank you.
Outstanding.